The Royals dropped the final game of the series against the Nationals in a weird, tough game. It makes this weekend against the White Sox all that more crucial and pivotal. They continue to try and stack some wins with the lighter schedule. We'll talk about all of that live here on One Royal Way. We're back at it here on Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Joel Penfield. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Make sure to like, rate, subscribe, review on all platforms, audio and video. We are live on YouTube on a Thursday night at 8:30 Central. As always, you're an audio listener. Sunday and Thursdays, we are live on YouTube. It makes for a fun episode because people hop in the chat. They're a part of the conversation. They leave their comments. They kind of direct the way things go sometimes, especially when it's just one game to talk about like it is tonight. We'll recap the wacky game that was yesterday afternoon at Kauffman Stadium, do a little preview on this series against the White Sox. I do want to talk about a couple of minor league guys that have really stood out this year on the pitching side that have been nothing short of spectacular at a really young age in affiliated ball. If you follow along, I kind of know who I'm talking about, I'd imagine. But we'll get that. It may be a little bit of a shorter episode than normal, but I appreciate everybody that does hang out. Make sure to hit that like button on YouTube. Share this with your friends. It helps grow this channel. We're continuing to grow over the course of the season. It's been awesome to see, and I appreciate that support. It means a lot to us and to me on this show. The show, as always, brought to you by Emprise Bank, member FDIC. Our partner is Impossible here at Kansas City Sports Network and on this show. And I also do want to give a quick shout-out as well to Kansas City Strength and Conditioning. If you're an OG listener of this show, you know who that might be. They're a baseball and softball training facility here in Kansas City. Former Royals pitcher Scott Barlow, Austin Cox have trained there in off seasons in the past. So it's a great place. If you have a baseball or softball player in the area needs a place to train, get better, learn more about their craft, that is a place to go and check out. So be sure to check out KCSC, Kansas City Strength and Conditioning. Do want to give them a shout on this one as well. Let's go ahead and dive into the game on Wednesday. The Royals lose 8-7. And the fact they were able to get it back into this game with the way it started was pretty remarkable, given the start they got from Seth Lugo, which was not good at all. First inning was incredibly ugly. It's a single, a walk, force out walk. And at that point, it's, you got bases loaded with one out for Nathaniel Lowe, and Lugo hangs a curveball, and it's 4-0. I mean, just that fast. Another single and a double. It's 5-0 before fans have even really gotten into their seats. They bat the full 1 through 9 in the first inning against Lugo with a lot of hard contact. Even the outs were hit hard, deep fly balls. Not ideal in any way, shape, or form. And this is now third start in a row where Seth Lugo has been pretty poor. It was a fine start in Toronto, but not what the Royals really needed out of him. And then it was bad in Minnesota, and it was bad in this game. Credit to Lugo for, kind of battling to get through 4, but he still gives up 7 runs, 6 of those earned, 4 walks, 2 strikeouts, and 2 home runs given up. One to C.J. Abrams, and then obviously the grand slam to Nathaniel Lowe, who was promptly DFA'd today by the Nationals. As they had to make a roster move for a guy coming off the injured list. Now, I know that people have started to hit the panic button on Seth Lugo. I'm not necessarily there. It's obviously a concerning trend, but we also, if you look at the numbers, you looked at some of the expected stuff, the peripherals on Baseball Savant, you knew, there was going to be some regression to the mean. Like he had pitched well above the projection in some of the peripheral numbers, and eventually it's going to come back down to earth. And that's what happened in this game. And over the last couple of weeks. My theory, and I don't have the numbers to back this up. Obviously, I haven't talked to anyone in the organization if that's what they think is happening, but here's my take on this. Because there's nothing that shows me he's hurt. There's nothing that really shows me like there's any sort of arm injury concerns, because like the spin rates are within tolerance of his season averages. The velocity is kind of up and down, but he's a notorious tweaker and tinkerer with his pitches, that the velocity kind of fluctuates in some spots. Like his slider velocity is up 3 miles an hour because he's throwing it almost like a cutter. in spots. The slurve was a little bit slower. The sweeper was slower. But everything else was within a mile per hour or so of his season averages. So nothing that really jumps out as a red flag. What I think is happening is the league has caught up to the game plan of, I'm going to throw a billion pitches. You have to game plan for 12 different pitches against me. And I'm going to try and just induce as much weak contact as I can and see if I can mix and match to get enough swing and miss to keep guys on their shoes, on their toes. I think what's happening right now is teams have decided, I don't care what the pitch is, we're just going to hunt windows. And by that, I mean, okay, we know he likes to maybe go away with his fastball and his sinker and his cutter early in the game. Like establish the fastball, middle to away. And I don't care what the pitch is. We're just going to sell it for contact in that window. He likes to go up and in with with a couple of pitches in the spot. He likes to go down and in with 2 or 3 or 4 pitches in this spot, in this count, with this situation. We're just going to hunt down and in here. And obviously, if he hangs something, bang it. That's what Nathaniel Lowe did. So I think there's just maybe some changing of the game plan that Lugo, Sweeney, and Bove are going to have to do to figure out how to maximize the pitches. It's not that I want Seth Lugo to pare his repertoire down. It's not necessarily that. But I think it's just finding a new way to, kind of counteract this, selling out for contact in certain areas that teams are doing against him. I'm not overly concerned. He's had the track record that he has had in Kansas City is far better than this. He went through a stretch last season around this time where he really struggled, and then he picked it back up in September and was much better. So we'll see how he gets through it. Obviously, if this sort of continues over the next 6 weeks, then we'll need to have some conversations about expectations for Seth Lugo in 2026 when he's back in Kansas City with this deal, this new deal that he has. Offensively, they did a really good job, and I'll give them credit in this regard. Like, you go down 5-0, getaway day game before an off day, like, it's hot, it's humid. They could have easily just kind of checked out and been like, all right, hey, it's not our day. We'll get them tomorrow. We'll go into the off day and head in tomorrow. Some of this is also the Nationals pitching staff is really bad, and that's what allowed the Royals to stay in this game. But they fought in tooth and nail, and they battled all day. If you want to have the positive spin on it, they didn't have a single inning where they went down in order. No 1, 2, 3 innings in the first inning through the ninth, which is pretty unbelievable. But you only score 7 runs in that situation, and you go 4 for 17 with runners in scoring position, and you leave 11 on base. And in 2 of these situations, it was in the second inning and in the third inning. Vinny grounds into a double play with 2 on, with runners on the corners and 1 out, and he had already come through earlier in the game with an RBI ground out, and then he comes up, grounds into a double play in the third inning. It's runners on first and third with 1 out, and Jonathan India grounds into a double play. When you had these chances to kind of get back into it, at that point it was 6-3. And, they could have been able to maybe break it open later. And it didn't happen. They kept chipping away. It was 7-3. Vinny comes back up and hits another home run. And he had 9 RBIs in 2 games in this series. And it looks like maybe he's starting to get going a little bit. They just found ways to chip away. Need a series sweep the weekend of my wedding. Hey, congratulations, Clinton. I appreciate that. That's awesome. Thanks for telling us that. That's really cool. I would love a series sweep just for the sake of it, but that makes it even better for your weekend here. So it becomes 7-6. They have chances. They can't come through. And as the Nationals got into their bullpen, which is one of the worst in baseball, again, they have chances and just can't get it done. Now, some of this, like I think it was the 6th inning of this game, there were 2 really questionable, or it was the 5th inning, 2 really questionable called strike threes on Jonathan India and Randall Grichuk that kind of changed the complexion of those innings. In the 8th, they end up getting a sacked fly from Bobby, makes it 7-7. Estevez comes in the 9th, and he ends up giving up a run. It was not a great inning. You could tell he was not able to get some swing and miss, which is obviously a concern from a high leverage reliever that it feels like he can't get swing and miss and just has to try and be fine down and away, try and get a ground ball. It's a little concerning. And then they have a chance late in this game. Randall Grichuk and Jonathan India with singles. It's first and third with 2 out. Tyler Tolbert comes up. He had pinch ran for Izzy earlier in the game, but he manufactured a run. That's where that run came from late to tie it. Stole second, stole third, and ends up coming in. And Tolbert, I mean, that's where his value is getting in those situations and wreaking havoc on the base paths and doing enough with the bat that it's tenable to have him up there. And with the way that this game had gone, I wouldn't have been shocked if he hits one in the gap and you have at least a chance of the tie or the win. Didn't end up happening. It's a frustrating loss, given that the Nationals are not good. You had a chance to sweep, but also you're a guy that you rely on to keep you in a ball game. Did not do that. Now, to kind of spin this back in another direction when it comes to the pitching staff, like again, could have been just one of those days they blow up and it is what it is, but innings 5 through 8 with Daniel Lynch, Sam Long, who gets 2 strikeouts in an inning, in a shutout inning, was impressive. Luinder Avila makes his big league debut out of the bullpen. I don't want to pigeonhole a guy that's just breaking into the big leagues. He's 23 years old. I think he might get some starts maybe later this year. They decide to keep him up and just get him innings. But the reliever profile for him, to me, is pretty fascinating. We saw it in little 1-2 inning bursts in spring training. It caught my eye as potentially a guy that can make an impact this year. I didn't necessarily expect it, but that he could, because the stuff is good enough. The fastball, kind of long, athletic levers in his delivery. It's a smooth, clean delivery, really athletic looking, which is good to see. Fastball is 96, 97 at the top of the zone, and that curveball is a freaking weapon. It's 1 inning, so it's kind of tough to tell. Like, it usually stuff plus on Fangraphs needs like 10 innings to stabilize. So looking at from 1 inning is a small sample, but the stuff plus on his curveball that he spins near 3,000 RPMs with almost 4 feet of vertical drop was a stuff plus of 141. So 41% better than the league average. It's the best curveball on the Royals by 30%. So it is a legitimate plus or damn near plus pitch that he throws. With a fastball, needs to tweak a little bit. He doesn't spin it really well, but he also doesn't throw a sinker, so it's just kind of flat. That may need some tweaking, but I'm not going to complain too much. The guy throws hard. The guy's in and around the strike zone with some regularity. I'm curious how he gets used. I mean, that was a high leverage spot. It was a 1-run game in the 8th inning, and he kept it clean. Gave I think it was a couple ground outs, and I want to make sure I get this right here. It was a 1-2-3 inning ground out, strikeout, ground out. With again facing 3 guys, 2 rookies that have talent: Brady House and Robert Hassel, and James Wood, who's one of the best power hitters in the league this year. He strikes out Hassel on that curveball that I mentioned earlier. So he's going to be a fascinating guy to watch over this last 6 weeks. They need innings from the bullpen. They need guys that they can trust. We'll see how quickly he can earn that trust and be in there with the Lucas Ursigs and the Carlos Estevez's and the Angel Serpas and those, the guys that Q goes to with regularity, some because he has to and some because he trusts them. If Avila can be that, I mean, there's a legitimate big league pitcher in there, and I think the reliever aspect could be really interesting for his future in Kansas City. We're going to take a break. Went a little long in that first part, but I appreciate you guys sitting there listening. If you have any other thoughts, please drop them in the comments here. We'll preview a little bit of the series with the White Sox coming up here this weekend, and then talk a couple of minor league pitchers, and we'll get on out of here.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story, like Brain Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Brain Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe button. Everybody, if you are hanging out on YouTube, I do appreciate it. Drop any comments you have in the chat. We'll talk about them as we go through it. So the Royals have a series against the Chicago White Sox this weekend. The White Sox are 44-77, so it's another team like the Nationals. They're way below 500. One of the last series we saw the Royals play against the White Sox, it was an embarrassing series that they lost in kind of inexplicable fashion. In Chicago, they end up salvaging the last game of that series, if I recall correctly. And you win the series, you win that game, and that's great. But it was part of a June that was pretty disastrous for this team. We'll see what they have. Like I said, they have played better as of late, but haven't been able to just rip off a big win streak. Like, they're winning series and they're playing competitive ball, but it's win 2, lose 2, win 3, lose 2. Like, win 1, lose another. Like, they just haven't been able to put it together. And in the stretch, they really needed to. And you lose that series to the Twins, it was terrible. And then you have a chance to sweep. It becomes Johnny Holstaff in the 5th inning of that game on Wednesday, and they can't cash in and get it done. Just a tough loss there on Wednesday when they had a real chance to sweep and get some momentum, get a game over 500 before the White Sox get here. Now you're set at 60-61. Your pitching matchups this weekend on Friday, it'll be Noah Cameron against Aaron Savali. On Saturday, Michael Lorenzen is going to make his first start in over a month since he went on the injured list with that oblique injury, which he went 5 or 6 innings in his most recent rehab start. Seems like he's kind of back to normal now, so we'll see what they get out of him. Sean Burke is going to go for the White Sox, and then on Sunday it'll be Ryan Bergert against Davis Martin. And the Royals, I think they hit Davis Martin pretty well earlier this season, if I recall correctly. I mean, it's hard to say because this team hasn't shown us they can do it, but this is where you have to sweep. If you want to be a serious contender, you want to make a serious run at the playoffs, like, you have to sweep this series. I'll take a series win, but it won't do much for me because you'll be 62-62. Texas is hovering around 500. It won't give you a ton of momentum going into that Rangers series, maybe a little, because you finished that stretch of baseball 5-4 when you really needed to go 7-2 or better against the Twins, the White Sox, and the Nationals. But we'll see what they have. I like the matchups that the Royals have pitching-wise in at least 2 of the 3 games. We'll see what they're able to get from Lorenzen. I have no idea what to expect. And also, I don't know what the roster move is going to be because they're going to have to add him back to the active roster. I mean, this may be where Taylor Clark goes back down, or that's the DFA spot. This might be the end of the line for Sam Long with Bailey Falter going to the bullpen now, and there's your other lefty. Because Sam Long has pretty much been relegated to like mop-up duty. He's been pressed into service a couple of times when they really just needed innings. But for the most part, this game's over one way or the other. Sam Long's in. And I know they still want to work on some stuff with Bailey Falter. So he's going to the pen, which I like. I think that could be a really interesting move, at least for the short term, to try and get something out of him. Simplify things a little bit. Let him, maybe work out of the stretch, find a couple of different pitches to really work on. They really want him working on his slider. They feel like that's going to open up the rest of his arsenal. Thielen Thompson wrote about that in the Kansas City Star today. So we'll see what they end up doing. That I'm not 100%. I don't think it's necessarily going to be an IL move either because I don't think there's anybody that really is unhealthy right now. So we'll have to see what that is, because I think Avila showed the stuff is there. I don't think I felt weird to call him up. Some of it was they just needed an arm, but also he in that one inning kind of proved what he can be. So I think there's still innings to be had in the bullpen for him. So that'll be kind of a fascinating move to see on Saturday once that roster move is activated. But we'll see what they end up doing. I'm interested. I'm excited. I'll be out at the games on Saturday and Sunday. I'll be there for media stuff, so be on the lookout on my socials at JT Penfield. I might do a little bit from the One Royal Way KCSN Twitter account. I'm terrible about using that because I tweet everything out from my personal for the most part. So I'll have some videos. I'll have some tweets. I'll have comments from Q and players after the game, and before and after, and hopefully get you guys some sound and some things for the Sunday pod as well. Should be able to have that. Before we get out of here, there are two guys I really want to mention that I haven't done a lot of minor league stuff this year. It is doing the show by myself. I only have so much bandwidth to cover all of this. I still pay attention to what's going on in the minor leagues, but nothing super close. Just from a time perspective, and only, I only have a limited amount of time to do this show, and I like talking about the big leagues at this point, breaking down every game. But there are two young pitchers down in the minor leagues in Columbia that are absolutely killing it and showing that the Royals are really becoming a pitching factory, not just at the big league level, but the minor league level as well. David Shields being one. He was a second-round pick out of the Pittsburgh area last season. Young dude. He doesn't turn 19 until the beginning of September. So he's pitched this entire season in Columbia, about 3.5 years younger than the average player, and in the Carolina League. And he spent this full season at 18, and in 15 starts, he has a 1.56 ERA, 67 strikeouts to 11 walks in 57 2/3 innings, and a whip under 1. And that is an unbelievable number to be that young and to be that dominant. And it's rarefied air from that perspective. What he's doing with that ERA, and it's only one stat, but this just kind of gives you an idea. So if you look at guys that are under 19 years old or younger that had threw at least 50 innings in low A since 2006, that's as far back as the Fangraphs minor league data goes. So there's your qualifiers. He has the 6th best ERA in all of A-ball of any teenage pitcher at low A with a 1.56 ERA. So, some of the guys above him, there's only a couple of names. Francis Martes in 2015 had a 104 in 52 innings. Donnie Troconis, who is this is actually this year in 50 innings in the A's organization as a 1.24, and that's really impressive. Madison Bumgarner in 2008, another lefty, and he was the same age as David Shields. It was his age 18 season, 1.46. Slightly better than Robbie Snelling, who was with the Padres organization. He's now with the Marlins. But this is when he was in low A. He had a 1.57. The late Jose Fernandez, who is one of the great young pitchers we've ever seen in Major League Baseball, had a 1.59. Yuri Perez a few years back had a 1.61 ERA at 18 years old. Joey Cantillo, who's with Cleveland now, he had a 1.93. There's a Luis Patino, Mike Montgomery, who was Kansas City's Mike Montgomery, 2.17 when he was 19 years old. Lucas Giolito, who was a top pick in that draft. Ben Kudrin is a great name to mention as well, Curtis. I will talk about him as well because he deserves some shine over the last couple of weeks. Suffice to say, David Shields has been incredible. And it is a massive testament to Brian Bridges and JJ Piccolo and the scouting staff to identify a prep lefty. Because when they drafted him, I was worried. Not because it had anything to do with David Shields. It was just the fact that we saw this organization get burned by a prep lefty 2 or 3 drafts ago. You know who I'm talking about. And it's just, I was like, oh, I don't know, man. Like, I know Brian Bridgers has a different track record than the Dayton Moore scouting regime and all that. But it's just, you kind of get worried about it. Prep lefty it's a risky profile. This pans out. I mean, in 2-3 years, this guy's going to be in Kansas City and really good. I want to see him up some velocity, just a little. He kind of works in the low 90s, but the delivery is clean and free and easy. And he's got a pretty good frame on him that I think, if he adds a couple miles an hour, even if he's 93, 94, like there's room to grow there. And he has reached into the low to, mid 90s as a prep before he got to pro ball. So there's room for him to grow there. The other name, and I know it's a name that you've seen me talk about on Twitter. It's a name that's gotten floated around a lot in people, minor league circles over the last few weeks. That's Kendry Churio. Kid is 17 years old. He doesn't turn 18 until after the season is over. So he's played this full year as a 17-year-old. He was a free agent, he's from Venezuela. They, sign him at, 16, 17 years old. He goes to the Dominican Summer League. And when guys go to the Dominican Summer League, predominantly what you see is they'll go there, and if they're awesome, like at the end of the year, they go to the complex. And then they're there for another year or two, and then they go to affiliated ball when they're, 18, about to turn 19 or 19. Instead, he throws 17 innings in the Dominican Summer League, and he's so dominant that they send him to the complex, like mid-season. It's like, well, that's pretty interesting. And then he throws all of 11 innings in the complex, strikes out 17, walks none, and at 17, they send him to A-ball. I was listening to the call-up, which is on Just Baseball Media, Arm Layton, and the other guy that does the show, his name escapes me, but that guy said, I've never seen an ascension like that, to go from the DSL to the complex to A-ball at this age. I mean, it's unprecedented sort of ascension for Kendry Churio. And he had a really solid first start. He got roughed up in his second, gave up, I think, 6 earned runs. And that was his only walk stateside thus far. But tonight, on Thursday, he pitches for the Fireflies again. And he throws 5 perfect innings with 4 strikeouts and no walks. So a lot of times what you see with these young Latin arms is the stuff can be electric, but the command is not there. And that's what they use the Dominican Summer League and the complex to hone that in and then send them off to affiliated ball and see what sticks. This kid has 50 strikeouts to 2 walks as a 17-year-old in his first go-round in pro ball. And in Colombia, it's 11 strikeouts to 1 walk in 11 2/3 innings, or 12 2/3 innings. I mean, it's unbelievable. The Royals really have a gem on their hands with this kid. And I haven't seen or felt something about one of these Latin pitchers that the Royals have tried to develop since Giordano. I mean, that's the kind of rarefied air this kid might be in, that he might debut at 20, 21 years old if he stays on this track. I mean, I know that sounds crazy to think about given the lack of success the Royals have had in that department basically since, the late, great Giordano. But this kid has a lot to dream on. It's not smoke and mirrors. This kid is special. And I know there's no such thing as a pitching prospect. I may be getting a bit, above my skis here. But the proof is here in the stats and what we're watching. This kid's got a crazy special talent to him. Oh, Bill Nye hopping in. We're keeping Estevez next year. I think they will, but I don't know if it'll be as a closer. Like, I think that needs to be kind of the takeaway here. Like, I think Estevez is still a fine major league reliever, but the velocity has not quite been there from what it's been in the past. Now, it's been like he still can get up to 98, 99 when he needs it. but there seems to be, because of that diminished velocity compared to what he's had in the past in his career, like there is some trepidation to get it in the zone and get swings and misses in the strike zone. Like he feels like he's got to kind of be fine with it. And like he's not throwing and not ripping his fastball at the top of the zone like he has in the past in his career. No, he's trying to throw sliders away and changeups down, trying to get induce some weak contact and get out of the inning. That is a little concerning. And that's maybe a guy that's starting to recognize, like, I don't have that same strikeout swing and miss stuff that I used to have. We'll see. I still think there's an effectiveness to what he does, but I don't know if you can trust him every single night to go out and close games for you. But I do think if you make him your seventh or eighth inning guy, like he's still got value there. I think Ursig, he has not had the same swing and miss, but I think the stuff is still really good. You just kind of worry about back injuries with him. But they have they have guys that are there and available to help them in the bullpen. I think Cruz, if shoulders are tricky, I don't know if we see him again this year, but if he comes back next year just as effective, then, you still have the solid floor of a bullpen. Curtis mentioned in the chat about Ben Kudrna. He has had a really solid stretch in Northwest Arkansas. He spent the whole year there. And early on, it was a little concerning. Like he was getting knocked around like crazy. The ERA was up above 7, I want to say, at some point during this season. And I wondered, like, okay, what's going on here? Like, this is odd for him to be pitching like this. But in his last handful of starts, he's been awesome. He had a start back on the 22nd of July where he goes 6 innings, 11 strikeouts, no walks. Last night he gets into the 7th shutout ball with 4 strikeouts. He's got 96 strikeouts in 94 innings this season. ERA is down to 4.2. The FIP is almost a run lower than that. I think it's at 3.47. So he's not giving up a lot of home runs. Only 7 on the year in 94 innings. It's a pretty good number. My good buddy Alex Duvall, I know you guys follow on social here as well. He mentioned it's kind of hard to tell. Like once he gets to Omaha, we'll be able to see a little more about what he's done to kind of tweak his stuff. He said it looks like he's sinking his fastball more often. And a little bit better, like, because he throws his fastball can get up into the mid-90s, but it's not a great shape. And that's something that he's kind of struggled with. So I think maybe when you throw a low spin fastball, you're better off just sinking it because it's going to do that anyways. It's not going to have that same ride through the zone that a higher spin or better shaped fastball would. So I think that's maybe what he's trying to do, and that's made his changeup play better, so the slider play a little better. Alex a little lofty, but said like it's a James Shields type repertoire, sinker, nasty changeup, slider. And here are the stats. Before June 14th, he had a 5.96 ERA, 52 strikeouts in the 48 innings. The batting average against was almost 2.8. It was over 280 and a whip in the 1.5. So not good enough at all. Last 9 starts, 45 and 2/3 innings, 44 strikeouts, 14 walks. The ERA down to 2.36 with the FIP at 2.87. And the batting average against is now below 200, and the whip is almost 1 on the dot. So he has completely changed how he's doing. Some of this is maybe just some comfortability at AA in a prospect-heavy league. And the Texas League has a lot of solid competition. That's why I kind of wonder, get him some starts in Omaha, and then we're talking about Ben Kudrna likely in 2026 making starts for the Kansas City Royals, and just adds to the wealth of depth that this organization has built for starting pitching. What they did at the deadline to add some of that depth. So he's just another name to add, and we'll see what he's able to do. But certainly, really impressive. To see what they're going to be able to do. I think that's going to do it for this episode tonight. I will toast game 2, David Shields and Kendrick Chorio for their starts the last 2 nights with the Columbia Fireflies. future looks bright for those two and for this organization if they're going to be they pan out into what they could potentially be. And those are some potentially all-star caliber arms that the Royals have. So they're still a long ways off, but it's not hard to dream on the type of talent that they have. So we'll get out of here on that. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Like, rate, subscribe, review if you have not already. Thank you for listening, watching, however you consume this show, wherever you may be. Cheers. We will talk on Sunday night after the series against the Chicago White Sox.